You're listening to the Forest School Podcast. Delicious waffle chat about education, nature connection, child development, community building, and lots more. Hosted by Lewis Ames and Wem Sutherland.
During the podcast.
You sound all right. You sound like you're in an okay place.
I am. I'm. You know when you have been ill and you come out the other side and you're like, oh my God, I'm so grateful to be alive.
Oh yeah, you got to hold that too.
I thought I was never going to be better, and now I am, and now I can do stuff.
Do you have it when you start to get ill and you realise how much you took for granted, like breathing out of both nostrils, sitting there going like, why didn't I appreciate it every day? Every day I could breathe.
I know.
So,
every day that I could do the hoovering without then making yourself way ill again and needing to go to sleep.
Do you know what? I've had a similar feeling though this week in that we've been off. We've had a little break from doing sessions in the woods, but I've been going in to drop off things or do some tidying or do whatever. And I went in the other day. Some people will have seen I did my annual video of me walking around grazing on beech leaves that are at head height, and the shoots are out. The tiny baby leaves are everywhere, and I don't think I know it's been a hard wet winter for a lot of the UK, but oh my God, I don't think it really hit me how much it has been heavy until I went in and I was like, oh, greenery, there is and the particular, this is so niche and it might not resonate with a lot of people, but the particular shade of green of new leaves, that limey, it's almost translucent in some of the leaves. And and I say that because the woods is full of brambles and ferns and holly and ivy because they're so chlorophyll heavy, there's such a dense green that it's still nice. In the winter is nice, there is still greenery everywhere, but there's something about that level, that particular shade of green that does something to my mental health.
It's almost luminous, isn't it? I know, it's amazing, and your brain can't quite comprehend it. I had the same thing walking around a park in town today. I went to the Peak District for a couple of days and it hadn't happened there yet.
Oh, okay.
So I came back here and I was like, oh my God, it's happened while I've been away. Have you heard the expression about moths and moles in the theatre? So I was at drama school, people going, oh, are you a moth or a mole? And it's about how the stage lights react to you and your skin and your hair and whether you absorb light or reflect it, basically. And I feel the holly and ivy kind of plants are moles and the new beech leaves are moths, they kind of glow. Yeah,
definitely. And mate, we've been smashing it. We've had a little break, but we have still been churning stuff out on our Patreon. We've still been doing our surprise students, and we've still been doing our pop culture pedagogy.
Yes.
I hope I'm not giving anything away. Have you watched the next video that I want to do as a sneaky peek?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, so the next one I want to do, we've been doing bits from film and TV and different things like that, and I found on YouTube a video that is part curriculum, part behaviour management of British schools in the 50s and 60s, and it's black and white. It's got that noise of the tape, and it's and you can see Johnny has an excellent time doing the thing. Here he is, everybody talks to their nose. I want to look at that with you on the next Patreon one, because there's so much interesting stuff to unpick in there. People listening, if you want to hear all our juicy bonus stuff, you can go on patreon.com/the Forest School Podcast. The lowest level is £2 a month, which is nothing. £2 a month is a big bottle of fizzy drink, and I go through one of them in a ludicrously fast amount of time. It's £2 a month, which is incredible. And then it would really help support the podcast and all the stuff that we're doing, and we'll give you all those juicy freebie things. What else do I need to tell people? When we've got our level 3 coming up in autumn.
Yes.
Our next course, 10 days, 5 or 6 in the autumn, and then we have a little break, and then we have a few more in the spring. And it is just, every year we do it, I'm more and more like, oh, I get it now. This is the way I want to do it. And I feel like we're delivering a better level 3 every time, which I'm so pleased with. If you if you know anybody that's like thinking about their level 3 or thinking about getting involved in forest school, you can go to Children of the Forest, it's with hyphens in between, .com, and all the info is about our level 3 is up on there, and you can apply. And it's, honestly, I was looking the other day, for the same price, some people only do 4 or 5 days of training. We do 10. Yeah. We do 10, and we just put in all this like incredible extra stuff of like play theories and really like giving stuff time to ferment, to have conversations about it. Like 5 days is just such a like, here's the content. 10 days is like,
bye.
Let's chew this over. Let's learn something together. Let's go through this thing. And like forest school, you can't just give. So here's the thing, you know it now. So we've got 10 days to give people the time, haven't we, to chat through that stuff. And what else is there? We were just looking at reviews. We've not had a review in a very, very, very long time.
For the podcast, is, yeah.
I get reviewed all the time just by people in the street. 3 out of 5, Lewis! Thanks, mate. Cheers.
You can give us stars on Spotify, or you can write reviews in, if you're listening in an app like Apple Podcasts, you can write some kind words, and that would help us out
enormously.
Really
does help. It feeds the algorithm, and then we show up to more people, which is grand, if you can do those things. And I know I need to say as well, some people have been buying this last month our little our merch store has been going off. Most episodes I try and pull out an interesting quote or something and make a little bit of artwork for it, and then people can get that artwork on mugs or t-shirts, or a few people have been buying just little vinyl stickers that are a couple of quid. So we've had a couple of people buy from our Corvid's correction song that was sent in, the Chuffin Dock Off Beak sticker. We've had a couple of people buy Spiritual Mudlarking as a sticker. They're quite nice little things. You can just put them anywhere. And again, all those little purchases and stuff really help us as well. Helps us keep going. And I'm ready for today. This is a topic that we have had on the books for a little while. It's a waffly one, but I think possibly one of those questions that sort of goes unexplored. You just sort of take it at face value. So today we're going to talk about springboards and how you evaluate what a springboard is.
This episode of the Forest School podcast is brought to you again by the fantastic Forest Tawi stove, as available from the guys over at carbonfarmers.world. This is honestly the ultimate tool for like setting up fires with an outdoor education group of any kind. So it's got 3 different cooking surfaces, it's smoke free, and also allows you to get like the most out of your fire so that you can be as efficient as possible. The Forest Tawi stove, you can demonstrate the whole carbon cycle because you turn the organic material of the sticks into charcoal. You can make charcoal crayons. You can put the charcoal into like your compost bin and stuff and get rid of all the odors. Plus, it makes biochar as you're working. So I was reading this on their website. If you make 1 kilo of biochar, you have saved 3 kilos of carbon from going into the atmosphere. So the Forest Tawi is a carbon neutral stove, which is amazing. If one of your focuses with your outdoor groups is teaching about climate change or about sustainability, then you can literally demonstrate capturing carbon and keeping it from going into the atmosphere with this stove every time you have a fire. The Forest Tawi stove is honestly a must-have for anybody that's working with groups outdoors. So like I say, if you go to carbonfarmers.world, you can pick up one of these stoves, and honestly, it will change your outdoor sessions for the best. Thank you so much to the guys at Forest Tawi for sponsoring this episode.
Yes. And its effectiveness. And for anyone who isn't really familiar with that term, It's the word that we use for an offering or an idea that springboards a group or part of a group into some kind of action. So we would include anything that a forest school practitioner might put in their plan in terms of, I'm going to bring the equipment for this particular activity and I might demo how to do it and then they may do it. That could be, that's your most obvious sort of springboard, but it could also be a game that the practitioner brings and suggests playing. It might also be a story that they tell. It might be bringing in a kind of resource that then the group explores and, maybe that leads into some kind of play or some kind of experimentation or building or whatever. So any kind of stimulus, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's something, though, that defines springboards as like an intentional ramping up towards activity of some sort. And I was thinking, like, people can go back and listen to that play cycle episode we did, but I would say there's some crossover there, isn't there, where like we might talk about like a play cue could come from nature, like a leaf falling could be a play cue that then sparks this, or the way a particular set of sticks have fallen on the ground is a play cue. But I would not put those, for me, in the springboard category. Would you put them in, or you?
Well, I kind of have, while I was making notes for this episode, so just in terms of discussion, so if we were talking to our level 3 students about like planning a session, then the way we would use that phrase springboards would definitely be more along the lines of what you are bringing, what you are planning, what you are sort of preparing in advance and then presenting to a group. And we like the word springboards because it implies that the energy might go in any direction from that. It's like springboards like you have in like PE when you're a kid, those little jumping thingies.
You're facilitating the jump. You're not jumping someone. You're like, the person is running, you're giving them a bit of a boost in some direction, and then whatever happens after the jump is out of your hands.
Yeah, and they might even look at the springboard and go, no, thank you. I'm really busy. This is what I'm doing over here. Yeah. No, thanks. But which is where we started to talk about the idea for this episode when we were reflecting one day, because we, as listeners will know, like we've got really established groups now, and they feel really comfortable, as we often say, in telling us if they are not particularly interested in the ideas that we might present them or the resources that we've got, whatever, because they just don't want to. Like, I would love to do that another time, maybe, or whatever.
That the relationships have moved to such a place of like unconditionalness, or possibly like a stage in like honesty and respect that people feel safe enough to say no thanks.
No thanks. But then we were reflecting about how, so that might happen. One of us might present some kind of springboard and get feels like zero take up of that springboard, but then actually you might notice 6 weeks down the line or 6 months down the line, you're just like, what's that person doing over there? Oh, that kind of reminds me of that springboard that I presented 6 weeks or 6 months ago that apparently got no take up.
And then you go over and you say, we're not doing that today. That was on the plan before. No, you don't.
Excuse me, that's copyright me. What are you doing? That was my idea.
Copyright me is incredible. So we need to...
Stop it.
Okay.
Stop it. How dare you? Are you the leader of this session? I don't think so.
Smacking people across the back of the head with a plan. It's not on the plan. Anyway.
Exactly. So if you're thinking about the effectiveness of your springboard and whether or not it kind of, because if we're thinking about forest school in that cycle of observation planning, activating kind of thing, then you might, especially if you are a place with a group where they're not particularly well established yet, or you haven't worked with many groups before, where you might get really dispirited when you're presenting a springboard and you think, oh, damn it, like I've managed to deal with my like ego problem that they've gone, no, thank you. And I've managed to take that as a compliment, that they feel safe.
Yeah.
Of course. But I've managed to take it as a compliment that they feel safe enough to tell me that no, thank you, or to just walk away or whatever. However, I must have got something wrong if I planned that thing in response to my observations from last week and they didn't go for it. And someone's even said that to us before, haven't they? They said that on their level 3 training with a different provider, they questioned and said because the provider was kind of talking very much about springboards and like planning loads and loads and loads of springboards per session.
I know what you're talking about.
And,
it wasn't springboards.
Yeah,
though.
And then
it wasn't springboards.
It was like activities.
It was like, here are the 7 or 8 forest school activities, and the person. Yeah.
And the person that we knew said, like, questioned them and said, what do I do if the children don't want to engage in the activities that I'm presenting to them? And, because you're kind of suggesting that these are the things that we ought to do. And the trainer said, well, if they're not engaging with any of the activities that you're presenting to them, then there's a problem with you. Like, you're not presenting them in the right way. Yeah. You've got to make it exciting. And, which is perhaps a way that you could do for a school. You could do it in that kind of very teachery way. You've got you can imagine, a classroom teacher facing the same conundrum. It's like, well, we've got this curriculum and it's your job to deliver it and you've got to make it enticing whatever way. Yeah. We obviously don't work like that, and the children are absolutely within their rights to not engage with something. But so you might end up kind of being quite critical of yourself if you are planning things and feeling like it's not landing with anybody, it's not inspiring them, it's not being taken up. But then, given our observations of a longer time frame, it's like dropping a seed and expecting it to like blossom straight away. That's unrealistic. But you're kind of casting some seeds out. There's a lot of metaphors here, aren't there? Springboards and seeds and all the rest of it. But some things take ages to germinate. It might not just be the right time yet. And
that doesn't mean you shouldn't do the planting.
Exactly. I don't think that we should. I don't think we should be hard on ourselves if something doesn't appear to germinate right away. And B, getting to the point where your hierarchies are flattened so that you don't value your springboards any more highly than the springboards that might be brought by other members of the group or by nature is another thing to consider. So just in making notes for this, I was thinking about when a group becomes more established, the springboards being offered more equitably amongst the group. So yes, we will bring things, but the amount of times where a member of the group has like brought in something from home, like amazing show and tells about World War II memorabilia, or a particular like board game that somebody's been playing at home that they bring and they want to teach, or they found a really cool stick and it reminds them of something and they want to whittle it to become more like the thing, and then that inspires other people to do it. Or do you know what I mean? Like it's such a much more level playing field that you can get to with a group where they feel, I guess it's also that safety, isn't it? That you're modelling, I can offer a springboard idea, and if it isn't taken up or if it's rejected, I'm fine with that. So, and you're repeatedly modelling that so that somebody feels safe enough to offer their own springboard, safe in the knowledge that if it doesn't get taken up or nobody really wants to do it, that's fine. And also the freedom that they can still continue with that. They can do it. No one's going to say, no, we're not doing your idea now. We're doing my idea because I'm the grown up. It's that feeling, it's that learning community, isn't it? It's a safe learning community where everybody's learning adventure is equally important.
Yes. Something I don't know if you saw, my eyes zoned out then. I was like, there's a thing here though. There's a nugget here. I was thinking about you saying, as you said, modelling that having the springboard not necessarily taken up is okay and on the thing. I was like, yes. However, there are times where people have needed help regulating because their springboard has not been taken up, and that sometimes that's like a springboard just in the moment of like, I wanted to play dragons and this didn't happen. And sometimes it is that thing of like, I have been away for a week, and all week I have been holding this robot costume because I know I've got this vision in my head, which, okay, I'm going to phrase this in a way that like, this could be a child or this could be a leader. I've had this idea with my robot costume that I will come in and I will be a robot, and everyone will collect pine cones that are my batteries, and they will bring me pine cone batteries and I will eat them. That will be then successful. Oh, I'm stumbling around another thing. I'm putting a pin in the word play needs, and I'm carrying on and saying, in terms of that robot eating pinecone batteries springboard being in air quotes successful varies person to person, in that I think this is where it relates to play needs, is sometimes I would say our job is to be the ones that are jumped by someone's play needs, by someone else's springboard, because they have a need to have springboarded someone, right? So like someone comes in with that pine, I'm going with this robot thing, right? It's quite a good one. Maybe we should use it in the woods. Anyway, that they come in, they're like, I'm going to do this. No one goes for it. And so my job then, even though I don't care about pinecone robots, is to come in and for maybe even 30 seconds, just acknowledge it and go, hello, pinecone robot, let me give you some batteries. Here you go. And to that person, the springboard was then successful. Whereas some people who might take that who might come with that springboard in an adult position, if the group of children said, hello, pinecone robot, here's a pinecone, and then all ran off, an adult might see that as unsuccessful because 30 seconds is not long enough in their heads. There's something, there's a great, like an unspoken thing there, which is like, as leaders, you might put it on a board and on a planning sheet and say, this is my game, I expect it to take about 10 minutes, something. And when it doesn't take 10 minutes, then you see it as having failed. That was not a good springboard. Whereas you could look at it in a pass-fail scenario and go, did anyone engage with it? Yes, they did. It passed. Or like, there's something about possibly how we evaluate springboards, and one criteria being time. You know, was this a springboard that lasted a whole morning? You know, I came in and I told about elves and fairies, or like people that might go, and again, a springboard that I see quite commonly is like, the fairies left letters for the learners in the woods. And that springboard, it was then a whole magical day of they did this and they did this. And implicitly what we're saying is, good springboard, took long time. Good springboard. But I don't know that that's necessarily the right way to view that criteria, or even the only way to view the success of a criteria, of a springboard.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean, because I'm putting a pin now in something that you said earlier, which I'm just writing down to come back to. But you might also measure it in terms of like repetition. So,
okay.
It
What
might be like I mean, in terms of maybe this isn't the best example, but like making pancakes, there was a first time that we ever made pancakes in the woods. It's very hard to remember when that would be. But in terms of how many times that gets repeated through suggestions from a group or from us, and that different people take charge of doing that and go, I'm going to make the pancakes.
The springboard is the same, is repeatable, and the direction that energy goes is always slightly different. But the springboard is always pretty consistent. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you want to do right now? I want to make pancakes. Like, how we've lost count of how many hundreds of times that's happened. But, you know, maybe the first time we did it, nobody wanted to engage in it. A couple of people ate them, a couple of other people didn't. You or I made them, but by the 650th time, one child is taking complete command of doing it all. Somebody else makes a fire, and everybody eats them. You know.
Yeah, and pancakes is a really good example of truly meeting that, what I would say, that definition of Springboard, in that when you or I suggest or put them on the planning sheet, we have very little expectations about whether that is us making them, or us making them with someone, or us or one person making them, or us making them twice in a day, or us, you know, like that is truly like, here's the Springboard, don't know or mind where it goes. Whereas perhaps those ones of like, I've come in with a robot costume and you're going to feed me pinecone batteries, is a more narrow expectation on a Springboard. Still, I would say a Springboard, if you're open to it potentially going other ways, but it's way narrower in terms of what you're offering.
Yeah. Can I go back to what you were talking about? So if a group member offers a Springboard, it's our job as practitioners to show them some interest and engagement in that Springboard if they need it, if nobody else is giving that to them.
In a play cycle-y way.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I was thinking about that actually, because we've so far only really spoken, which we always speak about like feeling safe enough to say no and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But actually there's another side to this kind of learning and this kind of community, which is feeling safe enough to say yes and giving something a try, which is the other side of the same coin, I think, because that can be another reason why people might not take you up on a Springboard. It's not because actually I'm really busy over here and I've got my own play need going on and I feel comfortable enough to say no to you. It might be that, oh my God, what you're offering there is so far outside my comfort zone and I'm really unsure about it for whatever reason. It might be like, you're cooking something and I'm really not sure whether I'm going to enjoy eating that, or I don't know if I feel safe enough to like leave the side of my best friend here who doesn't want to do it, and so I don't, even though I want to try that other thing, I don't feel confident enough to leave them, or any number of reasons that is just like outside my comfort zone, or there's a sensory element to it that I don't like, whatever, millions of reasons. But in the same way as us modelling it's okay to have a Springboard not taken up, I would say there's also benefit in us modelling that, you know, somebody else has got an idea and I'm just going to be quite pro-social in my like, I'll give it a go. I don't mind. I'm going to give it a go.
Attempting to do any of the gymnastics or ballet dancing that we get suggested is, I think, a prime example of that, because cracking that as I am at ballet, it is clearly a like, I'm not doing it to be successful or not doing it to be performatively successful. It's like, let's have a go.
Yeah, exactly. That thing of like giving it a go when you're not really sure that it's the thing you want to do 100%. But actually I gave it a go and there was something really enjoyable about it. And that surprised me. And now that's opened many, many more doors for me in life and in taking, you know, giving experiences a go generally. And also that kind of pro-social thing that, so there's obviously a difference in making people feel guilty or obligated in to like take part in something that they maybe don't want to do or they're unsure about. Yeah. There's a difference between that and establishing a community where people feel able to adapt and respond to one another in a pro-social way that builds relationships. So, for example, giving something a go, not just because you might like it and you feel like adventurous, but giving something a go because somebody has suggested it and you want to make them feel good about it. You know, like you've just described as a facilitator, that you might do that. You want to give someone that feeling of success, in inverted commas, that win, that like, you did something for other people. That there, I do think there is an important element of that as well. That when people are ready, not through a sense of obligation and like, oh, this person's going to really like me if I do this, or they're only going to like me if I say yes to their ideas. Obviously, that's not great. Mm-hmm. But to understand, if I do show this person just a little bit of interest in the thing they're interested in, and I share in their enthusiasm for it for a short time, if I really don't mind doing that, is has a really lovely feeling. You know, it makes them feel good. It makes me feel good that I've made them feel good. And yeah, new relationships are forged or made stronger through that. And I think that is a hugely important part of the kind of community of learning that we're trying to establish.
Today's episode of the Forest School podcast is brought to you by us, Children of the Forest. Me and Wen wanted to let you know about our Level 3 Forest School Leader training course. We are down in Devon. Well, we're on the Devon-Somerset border. We're right off the M5. So anybody that's travelling up and down that motorway, we are super easy to get to. Our training is 10 days, not 5, like some people do. 10 immersive days in our woods, surrounded by all our like amazing play structures and resources. And we deep dive over those 10 days into not just what's covered in the course, but also we do things like play theory, neurodiversity, holistic human needs to make sure that you're equipped to facilitate the best possible forest school experiences. We keep you on track with monthly online meetings, email support. We have a Discord server for all our students, helping you to navigate the coursework, and we provide regular feedback. It's not one of those like you've done it and now you're out on your own. You have to rely on Facebook groups or people who've done the course before. We meet you all the way through the course, and our flexible submission options mean we can work around your learning style, including submitting some of your coursework as video discussions or as different things. We've had people submit watercolor paintings as part of their coursework, and that's absolutely fine. All counts. So whenever possible, we also visit your site and come and observe your sessions, not in an assessment kind of way, but in a like free consultancy that's built into the course. We come and look and like, hey, I wonder if you could design this thing over here, or maybe your staff look like they could do with some training in X, Y, Z. We're there to kind of give you that extra bump up. So don't miss this opportunity to transform your career, make a lasting impact in children's lives. You can visit childrenoftheforest.com, and there's hyphens in between all those words, or you can email us at childrenoftheforest@outlook.com to learn more about our Forest School Leader training course. Please don't wait around on this one, guys. We only do one course a year, and we only have about 15 spaces so that we can give the right amount of attention to people. And next one starts in autumn of this year. So again, head to childrenoftheforest.com and get yourself or somebody else that you know booked on to that course today.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess I'm trying to think, relating it to that idea of like, how do you judge if that springboard was a good springboard? Then bringing that, if you tie that into these things of feeling safe enough to have a go, or feeling, I was also thinking there's something, and this is similar to like an ego thing that comes from like, if you've come from, I would say, a teaching background like you and I have, where you are kind of encouraged to be like, you do the planning, you have the knowledge, you will deliver the planning, and people will go along with it, or you convince them to go along with it. And that coming with a certain amount of like ownership over the planning, which obviously we have moved away from to more and more degrees as time has gone on. There was something I was thinking about, whether people would subconsciously be thinking that your springboard was less successful if someone adapted it. So what I mean by that is like, if you come in with your springboard of like, I've got these puppets and I'm gonna tell a story, that's my springboard. If someone feels comfortable enough as you start telling or if you've got puppet story written on the blackboard, let's say, or you say, everyone, I'm going to do a puppet story. If someone in the group then tries to change your springboard and says, I actually don't like the puppets, could we do the story without the puppets? Or can we do it because we want to sit in the hammocks? Can we do the puppets over here? Would you view that? And I'm asking you genuinely, because I think there's no right or wrong answer to this. Would you view that as then your springboard was not as good as it could have been because it needed adapting?
No, I would say that that's a great springboard because people felt comfortable to, engage with it in their own way and access it in their own way. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. I was thinking, do you know, like, again, I'm trying to get to that point of like, if you are assessing Springboards as good or bad, when you like reflect and review whether you're going like good Springboard, I'll do that one again, or like not great Springboard, need to tweak X, Y, and Z, like taking feedback on of like, they did not like that Springboard went in this, was like this, but when they did it like this, they did.
Yeah. It all depends on your own degree of flexibility as well, doesn't it? And some days are going to be easier than others. Like if we have emotional attachment to that Springboard in that particular way, for whatever reason, that is going to be more challenging. Or if we're feeling really tired and cranky and therefore our kind of mental agility is low, and somebody kind of goes, yeah, nice, but can we do it in the hammocks? That some days one's brain just goes, cannot compute. I'm really sorry. Like, no, like, can I just do it in this way because the wheels are going to come off,
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that either, because we all have days like that. And it's better to be honest rather than try and keep going with something that you're like, I don't even know how this is going to work. And sometimes we will say that, won't we? In terms of like, well, I don't know how that would work. Like, you're very welcome to. You guys can do that. You can do it.
Do you think you can too many cooks a Springboard?
Yeah.
Do you think if too many people try and adapt a thing, that might be where your Springboard becomes objectively like, this is now no longer a successful Springboard?
I think that happens a lot with games, don't you? That there might be a game that we've introduced or somebody's introduced, and then people are like, I've got an idea, like, we can change it. This is actually now the thing, and the thing is the thing, and the game is this. And someone goes, oh yeah, great, except can we also change this? And then that becomes like a different type of play, doesn't it?
Because that's what I was going to say. Devil's advocate is that now that is not a Springboard towards physical play. This is a Springboard towards social and emotional development and mediation opportunity. It's still a Springboard. But you would not write in your planning, my Springboard for today is to spark off an argument about whether vampires can get you when you're touching a tree, and I'll see where that goes. Like,
well, yeah, that completely ties in with that idea of like, how do you measure the success of something? Because so you could say the success of the Springboard is measured by what learning happened as a result of introducing the Springboard. And then you've got to be really aware of your own biases in terms of what you define as learning.
That's one of the notes I have, is like, is one of the criteria content coverage? A Springboard that covers lots of vast, broad range of content. And we did a bit
like through this game I did nature learning, and
when it's turn taking,
and we did this and we did that, and I covered
I have one Springboard and it covers all of Key Stage 2 science. Like, do you know what I mean? That's facetious, but you know what I mean in terms of like, some people would say that one Springboard is better than another if it covers like okay, so is there a difference between these two Springboards? If you offer a game and you say, hey, you guys try and sneak up and touch me and like tag me on the shoulder, I'm going to turn around. If I see you and you're not touching a tree, then you have to go back a tree. That's your Springboard for a game, right? Yeah. Is that a better or worse Springboard than going, here's the game, it's called Squirrel Sneak Up. I'm a squirrel, you guys are other squirrels, and you're trying to watch where I bury this. I'm going to turn around, and if I see you and you're not hiding in a tree den by touching a tree, then I can see you and I squeak, and you have to go back a tree. So say, like, are those Springboards, is one of those Springboards better than the other?
What, because you think you're trying to instill some kind of nature learning with the second one?
Yeah, because in terms of like content coverage, and I'm using all the air quotes in the world here, one of those is physical game, involves, stealth and competency in terms of understanding when someone's going to look round. The other game has, the other Springboard involves all of that and a bit of nature knowledge. So does that make the second one a better springboard?
I think it probably depends on the group, doesn't it? Because if you think that the group will enjoy that more or take that on board, or it will help them imaginatively engage with the game, and there's a myriad reasons why the second one might be better. There's also reasons why it might not be better, because you might be working with a bunch of 16-year-old people who aren't really used to playing in that way, let alone trying to pretend to be an animal, and therefore you've just stretched the boundaries of what they might engage in.
So engaging is our like highest priority for a springboard. Engaging in some way.
In some way, I think
way more important than this was a great.
How do you measure that
didn't get taken
How do you
out.
measure the success if they don't engage with it at all? Like,
well, again, that's the thing. That's what I'm picking at here. Really, is I'm just trying to, in a very like mathematical way, go like, okay, what are the criteria in this spiky? If you had springboards on one of those, this is a visual medium, an audio medium, and I'm doing a visual thing. What are those diagrams called with spikes in every direction?
Like how you would draw a spiky profile.
Yes, what's that called?
I don't know what that.
I'm going to describe that type of graph. It looks like a target, and you have all these different axes, and it goes off, and the spikes are bigger or smaller in different directions. I'm basically trying to do that for a springboard, and then go, this spike is super important, this spike is...
So one spike might be engagement, one might be like opportunity to practice social skills, another one might be nature knowledge, another one might be practical skills, fine motor skills.
Ability
so
to be
many.
Adapted. That's one of,
Right, okay.
So, because, and then this relates to my, one of the other notes that I made was how important is the ease of input for the springboard. So ease of input by what I mean is easiest springboard potentially that you could have would be, you clap your hands, who wants to play hide and seek? Ready? 5, 4, 3. If nobody goes, your input's been like minimal, versus a springboard which is like, I have woven my own cloak, and around the woods I spent 45 minutes setting this up and this and this up. And so they both get the same level of engagement. How important to you is the ease of input for your springboard?
I think that's a real learning curve, isn't it? That if you, for myself anyway, if you looked at how much time, I was actually... I'll stick with it. If you look at how much time I spent prepping springboards for the first sessions that I did, oh my God, some of them so long, like
longer than the activity.
Oh God, yeah. Like
I
laminating stuff, finding images and writing it down, and really thinking about like how that's going to work and all this stuff. But compared to now. But having said that, a lot of the resources I made then, I do still use now.
So that ties to the repeatability of the input. Yes,
yeah, absolutely. Okay. And also there's a thing about sort of learning through doing, isn't it? Like you don't get to the point where you can whip out a springboard easily until you've been through that quite painful, arduous process sometimes, because you learn what's needed and what isn't. You learn, like, actually, the most important thing in this particular springboard is that I've got some ripped up bits of fabric.
Yeah.
That's the most important bit. Like, that was worth the investment in buying the fabric, ripping up the fabric and keeping it in a nice bag. Like, all of the rest of it didn't really need to be used, those kind of things. But you only really learn that by, I don't know, for me anyway, by doing it. And investing the time, and that's how you work out what the important puzzle pieces are. In the same way as like setting things up, it's the same as the language you use to set up a springboard, isn't it? In terms of
about that.
Well, one way of setting up a springboard, let's go with the game thing, might be, okay, this is the game. I am going to do this. You are going to do this. You have 30 seconds. Everyone has to do this, and the rule is, if that happens, that's the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way.
Mm-hmm.
Another way might be like, I heard about this game the other day, if we want to play it.
Okay.
I might invite you, like, the game goes like this. There's a crow.
It's way softer.
There's a crow, and the crow's looking for food, and then there's some other characters who try to steal the food from the crow.
Mm-hmm.
So I could invite you guys to be the other birds, and I might be the crow, like...
Yeah. Declarative versus imperative.
Yeah, and sort of, it's that weird thing of, like, low arousal, but trying to make it engaging, which seems like a contradiction, because it's low arousal in terms of, like, I'm trying not to arouse your sense of fight or flight, but I am trying to make you interested, and that kind of thing.
I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I don't think imperatives are springboards. I think I would.
So that's an order. It's not a springboard.
It's not a springboard
a
because, as we said at the start, a springboard involves some element of I'm not sure where you're going to take this. Now, I think the following. I'm learning what I think as it comes out of my face. So,
that's what this podcast is all about.
That's the secondary title of the. It wasn't going to be called the. It was called "What Do We Think as It Comes Out of Our Face." I think the game that follows an imperative statement of you're going to do this and I'm going to do this, I think the game can be a springboard, because once you finish the game, that can be the thing that people then go, I want to do that again and change this rule. I want to do but I don't think the imperative statement is a springboard, and I will die on that hill until I change my mind, and then I won't care.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
I had written down a thing about when you're working with a new group, and I think this topic comes up quite a lot in our leader training, that thinking about, like, the first session with a group that you've never met before, or maybe you've met them but you've not actually led a session with them before, and you've not been the one who's the big cheese.
Yeah.
So some people would approach that first session by writing quite detailed plans, inviting lots of springboards, because you could look at it like, this group does not know what forest school is. They do not know what's available. So this is what I mean.
Okay.
This isn't, you're taking over a group in their forest school space, which they've been used to using and they know it, and you're just a new person. I mean, like, wholly new. So therefore, I've got to plan that. They've never breathed the air. They just live.
You are Morpheusing people out of the Matrix.
Exactly, man. Oh my God, I tried to watch while I was ill the newest Matrix film.
Oh, what's it like?
Oh my God, I had to stop.
I imagine that's quite hard if you've had some potentially lucid cough syrup or something.
Oh my God, it was awful. It was so bad.
Oh really?
I was ready, because I loved all the other ones. Like, even the ones people said were rubbish, I still loved them.
Okay.
This was so bad I had to turn off. Anyway.
Sorry, you're taking Keanu Reeves out for his first ever forest school session.
I reckon he'd love it. He would love it.
I imagine the shutdown of a springboard from Keanu Reeves would be devastating, though. Just so we're all squirrels, and we're going to chase the tree. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right.
Yeah. I'm a squirrel.
Too laid back.
I'm a squirrel.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a squirrel. I can do this.
Yeah. Sorry, I derailed your whole process.
I'm lost in a daydream. I mean, I started this by talking about the Matrix. Yeah. So first session, new group. So you might approach that by going, plan the heck out of this. I've got 25 springboards here with a lot of resources attached to each one. And you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. And here are all of my ideas and plans. Have a lovely time. Or some people approach that going, well, I don't know them and they don't know me. So I'm just not going to really bring that much, really. I might bring one springboard, which is a pile of rope. And then I'm just going to watch the heck out of them and see what they do and observe. And therefore, next week, I can plan more springboards, because I know who they are now. Yeah. Which of those two practitioners are you? A or B?
Me?
Or somewhere in between?
I think it very much depends on, and I would say it probably sliding scales, the age of the learners.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
because I think you can go out with a group with a soft springboard, like a bag of ropes or like a couple of hammocks or something. And I think that's a very useful thing to do with a group of children 5 or 6 and under. I think there's still an innate, like, they will run, they will play, they will explore the site. As long as you're holding that space, you know, you're kind of going, hey, set this up, and, you know, that's as far as we're going to go over there or whatever else. I think that's a super useful thing. I think, again, group dependent. If you tried to do that with a year 6 group, you'd get a very different response. Not necessarily a wrong response, because I think you would equally learn stuff from a group of year 6s that came out and actually ended up just doing a lot of social play, of chatting, or a group of year 6s that came out and wanted to do something else. You know, like, I think you're still learning stuff, but I don't know if it's the most effective springboard to do. And then if you were doing like an adult forest school type setup, then I think saying, hey, it's session 1, everyone, so I've just brought a bag of ropes, is going to be absolute Marmite. Like, some people will go, what a great forest school thing this was, that they just gave us some rope and we got to explore. And some people will be like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't do that thing. So I would say it really is like setting dependent. What about you? Where do you think you are?
Probably site dependent. Site dependent, because if you are working on a site which is really diverse and really rich in different types of habitats and spaces, and, you know, you can really imagine all the different play types that might happen there. You might need to prep less. But I agree with what you're saying. I would probably always veer towards the first type of practitioner in terms of like over planning. That's my style.
Okay, so because I think that needs picking up. Over planning is different to over delivering. So I think I would go to all those sessions with enough that I could do a springboard. And I could do this now without really thinking about it, which is why it feels different. But I would be ready to do a springboard every 5 minutes, give or take. I can pull a springboard out of my arse every 5 minutes, and they're pretty good ones. And they're like, yeah, let's take this, or let's run with this, or, you know. But that is very different, because once I was in the session, that would be when then I'd be making dynamic assessments of, now is not the right time for another springboard. I might go with 25 and I might deliver 2. Whereas there's also something about, which is possibly another criteria, which is like, not how adaptable, but how optional is your springboard. So if you've set up the site with hidden letters from fairies, and you are in your fairy costume, and you have like painted glitter spirals on your face, that springboard is happening. Like, whether you arrive and they're like, we're really sorry, but the class rabbit died in front of everybody today, and the group kind of shook up, and you're there with like fucking glittery wand and a tutu that doesn't quite fit, so it sticks out.
That session's really scarred you, hasn't it?
90 degrees.
That you delivered. That's really...
And you've got a badge that, unfortunately, the name of your fairy was the name of the class rabbit. Completely, but... So you're there, it's me, Flopsy the... Like... Do you know, so...
That was just such bad luck for you, mate.
It really was.
Such bad luck.
I mean, it's my fault for hitting the rabbit with my car on the way. But what I was trying to say is like how like parachutable is your springboard? How this is different to how easy is your springboard to set up. It's like, how easily can you go, no, this is not happening. And I will tell everybody a story, which is like, this is possibly an anti springboard, or a springboard that got out of hand, where we told a group that we were, you know this, you're giggling, don't you know the story? So I had this incredible springboard idea, which was that I was like, I think we can frame some den building and maybe a bit of like, you know, they had a group that was really into sort of like martial practice, you know, lining up and ordering and all this stuff. And I came up with a springboard like, guys, I've heard news that there's some Vikings coming to attack the woods in a bit. We need to get ready. We need to make some forces. Cue the most efficient, like, Rocky training montage you've ever seen of like all these kids absolutely going for it, absolutely like. And then they flipped and told me they were like, it's going to be you, isn't it? It's going to be you, and we're going to fight you. And I had not planned that at all. It was completely imaginary. And they were like, yeah. And they were like, no, maybe it's Lewis and Wem's friends. Yeah, and they're going to come and we're going to attack them. And we're really going to get to hit them. Yeah, Lewis has got stuff that means we can really hit him. Like, we're going to actually get to whack him with it. And I think we had about an hour where I just kept coming to find you and going, how do I undo a springboard? I fucked it up. This is the best springboard we've ever had. And I need to shut it down. How do I shut this down in a way that is...
I know.
Oh my God.
And we ended up making Viking faces on paper and then like tying them to the trees
so that they could whack the crap out of the paper.
Because we were like, this is the only safe way that we can end this springboard.
It was like, I can feel it in my body.
I know.
The vibes of that. I'm going to put a pin in that as end of that topic of like how bailable is your springboard? How easily can you get out of it if you realise it's not the right time or not the right group or one of those things.
Can I go on? Yeah. I was just gonna. You said something which I wrote down. You said like soft springboards, and I was like, because that is another kind of quality to them, isn't it? So you just talked about how bailable are they, or how flexible can they be in the direction they go, and how can you rein it in or whatever. Another way is about you've planned something, but as you say, it's soft, or it's like it's a more open-ended invitation. So if we're kind of going back to that, like it's the first ever session of a thing, like of a series of forest school sessions, that some people might really want quite a few springboards to make them feel safe and that they understand what's going on. But making those, but just being aware of like how narrow are they, how fixed are they, how open-ended are they? Is it, I have brought these old coffee tins and loads of loads of stuff to fill them with because we are making bug hotels, and this is how you do it, and this is what they look like. Or is it, I thought we might make bug hotels, where might you want to make it, what is yours for, what could some animals like this, some like this, what do you want to do, you can do it how you like, sort of thing. It's both of them are a springboard about bug hotels, but they are,
one is hard and one is soft,
quite different. And
that's definitely one of the criteria for, and I think this relates to one of the last points I had was, actually I've made it as we were talking, and I've just written down flavour, ? Which, as well as it being hard or soft springboard, there's also something about flavour, which is, so if I take the example of the bug hotels, because that's quite a very common one, I think. The flavour, I think, comes down to the individual leader. So there's something, you and I neither of us are very sycophantic people, right? We don't have, just the way that we are, we're not particularly, like, neither of us have an early years voice. And we've talked about this before. So our springboards are never going to be the same as someone who can do that early years voice of like, hello children, here we are, we're going to make the thing. Like, you and I would present bug hotels in essentially these voices, like, because there's a flavour of a springboard that is like what makes a good springboard for one person, because it fits with their, like, I'm going to wear a crazy crow hat and I'm going to, like, squawk at them. That's one person's, like, flavour of springboard. And that is not to say that if you... Because I was trying to think about, like, could you write down, if you collected, like, what's your best springboard? And people wrote down their best springboards. I think what you would get is lots of stuff that was like, that's not earnestly me. So I cannot use that springboard. That's not a good springboard for me. And a lot of what we've been talking about is the springboard's receipt. The end of the springboard, who's getting it. And I'm just thinking now, from the person delivering the springboard, there is some sort of criteria, which is like, and the one that fits in for me is like storytelling. For me is like, and me and you, performative people, the ease of that springboard is, we can do storytelling, that's not a problem. But for some people, storytelling is a big input. Storytelling is a big, like, whoa, my personal flavor is not storytelling. So that springboard is not right for me. But there might be other ways that that person might feel comfortable offering a similar springboard with their own flavor on it.
Absolutely, and I think that's the crux of what makes Forest School so different, depending on whose sessions you're going to. That the practitioner is a member of the community as much as anybody else, and so they bring their own flavour is a good word to it. And when you observe other people's sessions, you see that, and that's one of the joyful things, isn't it? That those things which naturally interest people, or they naturally have a skill for that particular thing. So actually, it isn't. It doesn't feel weird and uncomfortable to bring that as a springboard, or to prep the resources for that springboard in advance, because it's just part of what you do in your life anyway, and you really love doing it, and you relish prepping, natural paints, or handmade puppets, or a story, or like a maths conundrum. Like it's part of what makes every Forest School completely unique. And
or even going the other way, because we've just described, I would say, big springboards, or like, but also there's that level of there's those flavor of springboards that some people have that I don't necessarily have, and I'm in awe of people that can go, my springboard is, I brought in 3 shells and I sat with them cupped in my hands, and I invited the group to come and look. Like, it's so low energy but it's a springboard, just the same as, like, I've hidden 3 shells around the woods, you'll never find them, I'm the evil witch. Like, I am in awe of people who can do incredibly low springboards of, like, come to me, we're going to look at it, this, because I don't have that flavour. That's not how my
You're way more salty than that.
Way more salty. But you know what I mean? I was trying to make the point there that it's not just like big is hard and small is easy. Small is hard for different people.
Absolutely.
And that then comes down to that thing, doesn't it, of like, the flavour of Springboard is going to have such a big impact on the flavour of the Forest School, which is where you end up with, like, vastly different practice, potentially in a small geographic area, and people will vibe with one Forest School and, vibe differently with another, and kind of find their tribe and find their, like, this is the flavour I like,
Yeah, absolutely. Completely. Just, I think, probably as a final point, you said earlier as well about, like, when is the right time to offer another springboard as well. Like, I think that's a kind of weird instinct that you get through running Forest School for, like, over time, that and with that comes I think that's why a knowledge of things like the play cycle is important, because then when you're aware of what a play cycle looks like, and you can feel it, and you can feel play cycle ending, then that may or may not be the right time to offer another springboard. But again, with kind of like anxiety comes perhaps the tendency to go, and now another thing, and I was wondering if you wanted to also do this, because this was also in my plan, and you might be getting bored, so have another thing. But also, you can observe sessions where you think, if it was me, I think I would be offering something else now. Maybe that person needs a little bit more stimulation or interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's based this is the thing, when you go and do an observation, is that you have got such a snapshot that, like, yeah, we might have this internal vibe, temperature thing which makes us go, it needs something now, but you've got to trust, I think, a lot of the time that the other person is, and that's where you reflective chat afterwards, which we do with all our level 3s. Where we come in and you know, not appraise the session, but go through reflectively, more like consultants, and go, how did you feel about this moment? I had this feeling in here, and I noticed this, and like, you know, that's an interesting process to go through, isn't it?
Yeah.
And maybe this podcast is a springboard. Whoa, man. What? This is a springboard to other things. But before we go, I want to say a massive shout out to the lovely people that are supporting us on Patreon. This episode has been brought to you by Rachel and Karen, Matthew, Catherine, Gareth, Rebecca, Rosie, Julie, Rachel, Candice, Claire, Heidi, Louise, Michael, and Anna. We really, honestly, super appreciate all the people that are supporting us on Patreon. You guys are amazing, and we will keep putting up bonus stuff for you guys. And we've got some more episodes coming up soon where we are interviewing different authors and cool people, and we always try and put stuff up ahead of time. So those Patreon people, they get a little message that goes like, hey, we're going to talk to this cool person. Anything you want us to ask? Any topics we're going to... No, that's one of the ways that we say thanks to those Patreon people. I will see you next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.